Instead, a serious, bipartisan platform of free cookies wins. It's childish. The student council elections are popularity contests with herd behavior galore. Sometimes it feels like candidates are more like reality TV show stars than, well, candidates. Given that, are they really much different than adult elections? I mean, for the past 3 presidential cycles, the GOP has literally nominated a reality TV host. Ever since then, the inner workings of the Oval Office have felt a lot more like Keeping Up with the Kardashians and the headquarters of the free world. It's a worse reality, only with a bigger budget. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather have Kim K, or Chloe, or Chris, or a ham sandwich, honestly. You know, if even at the most local level, elections feel performative in nature, imagine how neglected student council voters really feel. Youth, people ages 14 to 22, make up 48 million different voices, yet we are consistently sidelined in politics. Even if we perhaps can't vote, decisions about the economy, education, and technology and climate, they impact our future most of all. In 2024, UNICEF surveyed thousands of young adults. They found that 81% believe people in power don't really care about what they have to say. It sounds cliche, but when leaders ignore us, they not only fail to account for unique perspectives, but they also weaken democracy itself, a system that relies on a wealth of viewpoints as well as generational support to even function. If America cares about the health of its democracy, it too has to care about including youth in big conversations. Let's start by defining youth suppression in civics. In 2015, there's this student-led nonprofit focusing on education equity. It's called the Kentucky Student Voice Team. Now, they want high school students to have a voice on who would be their next superintendent. Pretty harmless, right? Not even a vote, just a voice. I interviewed KSVT's co-founder, Andrew Brennan, and he told me this was really a nothing burger bill. Just a harmless something to get their foot in the door. Unfortunately, 2 older, I emphasize older, state senators then rallied to block their bill. They added a list of irrelevant amendments from a trans-discriminating bathroom bill to the addition of school prayer. These men injected their own partisan ideas just to stamp out some students' not so crazy hopes of participating in democracy. Ultimately, a conflicted Senate rejected KSVT's bill. The message at the time was clear. Student input is too dangerous to be heard, so much so that people in power will go through all sorts of political gymnastics just to stifle it. And it's like this on the district level too. The vast majority of committees on school boards include parents, teachers, principals, instructional specialists, really everybody. Everybody but who schools are for. Across the country, fewer than 15% of the largest districts grant students any advisory role in their own education. It's another part of the problem. One local politician comically asked, and I quote, "Is a student equipped to influence just because he or she won an election?" Fair point. That is, until it's flipped back at her. Is she equipped just because she won an election? If, in her opinion, elections can't choose proper representatives, then she should be out of a job. It's another part of the problem. Many politicians education to higher standards than their own electoral structures, while still proclaiming, as one state senator says, that we'd be better off out back with sticks in the mud. The effects of this are real, and they're damaging. In 2015, the Kentucky Student Voice team went to one school in Kentucky, and they asked every single student and teacher, what is the most important issue in your school that you'd fix? Over 230 students responded bullying. 0 teachers said the same. Seriously, 0 recognized it was probably the most pervasive issue in their school. What even this limited study shows us is something we already know, that students can recognize in-school problems often better than and before their teachers do. So when our perspectives are shut out, problems that could be readily solved may otherwise go unchecked for years to come. On a personal note, I felt that same kind of dismissal myself. A couple months ago, I ran into my congress member at my middle school graduation. He actually complimented my speech and said I could intern for his office in a non-partisan way. Obviously, I was thrilled. He gave me his email, so I went home and I followed up immediately. Weeks later, though, I got a reply. You're too young. Apparently, he just set a new age limit. That's when it hit me. I wasn't being invited to the table. Instead, I had been used as decoration around it. Now, it might seem like a temporary letdown. And I mean, yeah, it was, but I still felt hurt, like this politician had used me for all the press he could and thrown me away. And research backs up our stories. In 2024, UChicago surveyed young adults. They found that 92% followed the 2024 election closely. However, Tufts University discovered that only 42% of us actually voted. That drop-off is not because we don't care. Rather, it's because we've been told we don't matter, especially by politicians like the one I met. When that lesson sticks, it doesn't just sting, it silences. Then, democracy loses our unique perspectives and our faith in it. Okay, you might say, this is a big problem. But where do we go from here? When we scroll past headlines about gridlock and inaction, it's easy to think, why even try? But here's the truth. We don't need permission to take the initiative. We don't need permission to take action. We just need initiative. For example, at just 9 years old, Zev Shapiro began volunteering for his first political campaign, Elizabeth Warren's 2012 Senate race. He trained volunteers, co-hosted canvases, and actually accompanied Senator Warren to a joint address of Congress. Crazy, right? But nobody told Zev in 4th and 5th grade that he needs to go knock doors. No, he followed his passion. Above all, he was resilient to the first few laps. Zev is my boss now. He went on to found Turn Up Activism, one of the largest mobilization networks in the country. Now, if Senator Warren had dismissed him, I don't know if he'd be empowering me today. Shapiro's story is part of the reason why I began phone banking for New York City mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani. Volunteers for the campaign were not bound by age nor zip code, and it's why we made about 75,000 calls to voters in a single night. It's also why Zoran Mamdani isn't a candidate anymore. He's mayor-elect. And yeah, some hung up. Some cussed me out as a dirty socialist. Others said, Sometimes I didn't change anybody's mind, but my friend and I continued. That kind of resilience is rare, but it's powerful to people in power. Because in only a few months, Fayette County gained a student advisor. Now, 40,000 students have a voice. When we finally succeeded, that moment reminded me that youth voice can inspire, but that we can't act alone. Adult leaders, too, have a role to support youth leadership opportunities. And now, that might sound like a platitude, and that's because it is. And it's why I say without confidence. Youth voice and growth and empowerment are unfortunately such corporatized phrases. They don't really mean anything when I say them. So let me explain without buzzwords. If I didn't have the support of adults, of speech and debate, or KSVT, or even student council, I know I wouldn't be here today. I also know 40,000 kids would probably still be out of luck. Because the truth is, our development as people can be mapped in a timeline of moments in which we were or were not valued. And everybody remembers a time in which they felt they didn't matter. Everybody also remembers the time, the first time, they felt like they did. I know I do. So in election season, or even the hiring process rolls around, help choose leaders who listen. Look for the ones endorsed by students, teachers, and young voters. If a candidate isn't, that's a red flag. I'm not saying we need to oust senators over 35, nor do I really want my next congressman to be fresh out of college. What I am saying, however, is that democracy is a fragile structure, but it is one that must be reinforced through generational involvement. That's why nonprofits, just like the Kentucky Student Voice Team, and events just like these are so, so important. Youth empowerment is the antecedent of adult leadership. From school boards to the Kentucky Senate floor, the same rule applies. If you want a United States, you have to make room at the table. When we build systems that include everybody, regardless of race, religion, sex, gender, age, democracy doesn't just survive, it thrives. As the high school co-founder of KSVT, Forbes 30 Under 30 inductee, routine White House guest, and civil rights attorney in training at Columbia Law School, he's done a lot. Andrew Brennan said best, never underestimate a student with a small screen and a big idea.